On tonight's show, we've got JD of the GOAT District on tonight to join us to break down Week 4, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on GoingFor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for 2, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, GoingFor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to episode 104 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We're here every Tuesday and Friday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. We're on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube, of course, and we're also on all your major podcast networks and streaming in the GoingFor2 app. I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
It's fantastic. Just ready to talk some Week 4 and kind of recovering from that loss on Sunday.
Yeah, your Ravens didn't look so good offensively against that team. I was a little surprised.
Second half they did, but they had a pretty good game plan on it, and there was a lot of mistakes made.
Yeah.
I was sad, and I didn't watch football the rest of the day. I watched like half the next game, and I just couldn't do it. I was kind of embarrassed for myself.
How was your fantasy weekend?
Went 7-3.
Oh, nice.
Pretty good all around. Most of my teams are in that 2-1 and 3-0 range. I have one team that's kind of sucking that is super flex. I ended up having Cam Newton.
That's all you got to say right there.
Yeah, and James Conner. So that's getting a little rough. But other than that, every team's doing pretty well.
All right. Like I mentioned in the open as well, we've got JD, a returning guest. He's been on, I think this is his third time on the show, from the GOAT District podcast. You can follow him at GOAT District on Twitter. JD, man, how you doing tonight?
Jeff, Ryan, thanks for having me, man. Always a blast coming on with you guys. Sweet intro, too, man. Is that new, or was I just not listening last night?
No, that's new, man. It's new. I had to bite your style a little bit and give me a little bit of rap in the beginning of my show.
Is that Ryan there spitting?
No, actually it wasn't. I reached out to him and not Ryan. What's his name? What's your guy?
Gabe.
Yeah, Gabe. Gabe. Yeah. I reached out to Gabe, but I ended up not going with him. But I think I might look at it again, see if I can get him to do a rap for us as well.
Yeah, Gabe's legit, but that intro was nice, man. I appreciate that.
All right, good stuff.
Like
good stuff. All right.
I've been watching the Wu-Tang show on Hulu, so I might be able to do the next intro.
Yeah, we'll do a music video with you, Ryan. That'd be awesome. We'll get your dog in the background too.
We'll probably. Don't bring him up. He's actually being good.
All right, JD. For those that don't know, man, just plug your show. Where can we find it at? When do y'all record, and what y'all talk about usually?
Yeah, man. Dan and I, Dan Williamson at Overhyped Sleeper, no E on the end. We drop the GOAT District once a week, every week. Even when I'm not around. Last week I was, like I was telling you guys, I was in Miami with the wife for her birthday, and good old Memphis at DFF Memphis, Randy, the Outlaw, he took over my chair, and him and Dan put out a pretty solid show. So even when one of us can't make it, we always make sure that it gets dropped. We bring in some serious guests. Jeff, you've been on. Ryan, we got to get you on with Jeff next time. But coming up this week, we have Jordan McNamara from UTH. Nice. In October, we're going to have our first female guest. You'll know her from the NFL.com site. And we've even managed to lock up one of the footballers for the month of October. So check that out. And Dan and I also have Quarter Milli Billies, man. FFPC, the Football Guys Championship. We're going for a $250,000. We're 3-0 right now. So check that out. It drops. We've got both shows on any platform you listen to your podcast on. All right, good stuff. Definitely check that out, guys. It's a great show. I check it out pretty much every day or every time it comes out on my way to work or on my way home from work. So it's a great show. All right, guys, we got a ton to get to today. I know we got 2 teams on a bye, but we still got a ton of games to get to. Let's just jump into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, the first note we got on here, we'll go to you first, Ryan. Saquon Barkley, out 4 to 8 weeks, and I heard that it might be closer to 8 weeks than it is to 4 weeks. What are you doing if you're in a redraft league with Barkley right now?
I mean, praying to have an IR spot, but or else he's just going to eat up a bench because you can't cut him just in case, making playoffs with him. Even though it's hard losing that number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
It hurts. You got to spend some money on Gallman. But the thing is, Gallman's not Barkley, and he's still in a bad offense. Yes, the volume will be there, and he gives you a solid floor, but there's still a lack of real upside with him overall. But, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
And the Giants should definitely not rush Barkley because they're not out there trying to win a Super Bowl this year.
Agreed.
So seeing him out 8 weeks probably sounds a little bit more realistic.
Yep, agreed. JD, we'll go to you for the next one here. We got Cam Newton, and the note was he's going to be out for a while, in quotation marks there. He's dealing with a possible Liz Frank injury. What are your thoughts on Cam Newton, and what do you think of Kyle Allen, the backup this weekend?
Yeah, this one hurt. Saquon, not so much, only had 1 share and traded him off before the season started. But this one hurt a bit more because Newton was a guy that I was collecting, especially in Superflex. He was kind of falling around that 10, 12, 15, even sometimes 15th quarterback off the board. So he was falling at a nice value, especially with those weapons. So Kyle Allen comes into obviously a good situation. You've got Samuel there, DJ, CMC's just a beast. But, Kyle Allen also came in and played against an Arizona defense. So he looked good. Was it 4 touchdowns?
Yep.
So obviously he looked good, and then you got a lot of tweets out there comparing his production versus Cam recently. Cam has not looked great, right? So all around, this is not good news for Cam owner. I don't know that I'm going to go out there and spend huge money on Allen. If you look at the schedule coming up, it's not an easy one with Jacksonville, Green Bay, San Fran. Tampa Bay is a surprising defense this year. Even temper you can expect from Allen moving forward, but it's nice to get a replacement. Like, let's say you gobbled them up as a Cam owner, that can produce for you while he's gone. Moving forward, I don't know that Cam's really dead, like a lot of people are saying out there, but I would obviously hold in the Cam department and maybe not go too crazy in the Kyle Allen spendage.
Yeah, I do have Cam Newton in my Dynasty League. Luckily, I've got a few options. I got Jimmy G, who filled in this week, but obviously wasn't very good. And I got Kyler Murray on my taxi squad, and I may have to activate him this week if I don't get one of the waiver wire quarterbacks. I got some fab out there for Kyle Allen to fill in, but if I can't get Kyle Allen or Andy Dalton, I'm going to be plugging in Kyler Murray this week. So hopefully that goes well for me. What was that, Ryan?
I still want Kyler in there.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous only because then I got to drop somebody, and I know like with Kyle Allen, I got a spot that I can drop. But if I don't know, I'm on the fence still. I'll see if I get Kyle Allen, I'll stick with him on my taxi squad. If I don't get him, I'll activate Kyler Murray and roll him out there. He got the Seahawks this weekend at home, so that secondary is not very good. All right, Ryan, I'll go to you for the next note here. We got Pete Carroll saying he still believes in Chris Carson after the 3rd fumble in the first 3 games. He kind of cost him this last game. What are your thoughts on Chris Carson? Do you believe Pete Carroll, and are you looking at Penny taking over his job eventually?
I believe that Pete Carroll believes what he's saying right now. Like, I think that he wants Carson to be that guy. It's one of those, he feels super smart for having this 5th round pick be a star running back for him. But if he keeps fumbling, that's a huge issue. I love CJ Pro size, but he's just the receiving back. He's not going to be a guy taking that workload. A healthy Penny, after a few more fumbles, could be taking that. And that's what people wanted to see for a while, see if he actually can live up to the 1st round talent. But we might still have a few more weeks of Carson before anything drastic happens. So he's probably a sell while you can.
Agreed. All right. So the other note I got in here. So something I like to do in fantasy is I like to try to look a week ahead. Obviously we're doing waivers for this week, but I like to look ahead of the schedule as well and see who I might be able to add this week that no one's thinking about. These next 2 guys are potentially coming off an injury. Tevin Coleman and Jalen Hurd for the 49ers. They're on a bye this week. They might be back for week 5. JD, are you interested in either of these guys? Add them in the waivers this week?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can add depth at the running back position, I'm not that confident that Tevin comes in and maybe leads, the way that we thought he would take that role. We've seen Breda have some good games. Mostert or Mustard or
Mustard,
whatever his name is.
We call him Raheem Mustard.
Mustard. I mean, they're kind of spreading the ball all around, whether you look at the running backs or the receivers. We saw Pettis this week, Debo the week before that. I can't remember now. But I think if you're looking depth-wise, you definitely want to grab part of this offense, similar to like in Arizona, where we don't know yet who's going to play what role. But looking at injuries, bye weeks, things like that, you want guys like Tevin Coleman on your bench. I just wouldn't necessarily be relying on either of these guys as starters.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I'm looking at Coleman is the more interesting one, I think, to me than Jalen Hurd is. I think Hurd's going to be very touchdown dependent to start off. He's a big guy. He's sort of their Swiss Army knife. They're going to have him line up as a running back, as a receiver, as a tight end, but I don't know if they're going to use him in a lot of packages to start, being a rookie and all. Coleman, I think, could come in and have a role, but I do think that Breida and Mostert are able to carry that role as well, so they may just move him in slowly. All right, the last note we got, Ryan, real quick. AJ Green, he said that he may be out longer than his original 4 to 8 weeks. Is he droppable in redraft, do you think, or you still holding on to him?
I'm probably wrong on this one, but I'm probably holding him unless I have a really shallow bench. If I have the room, I'm going to keep him. But, man, if he's back, he's good. It's just we don't know what the timetable is, and there's no honest answer. If you drop him, there's no shame in it. But I'd probably hold on if I could. If I'm in a pinch, yes, I'll do it. But I don't know, man. I like AJ Green.
All right.
I actually do have a other piece of news that I just saw right before we got on the show. Apparently, Minnesota radio is reporting that Stephon Diggs has requested a trade now.
Oh, wow. Wow,
nice.
That would be huge.
Take that.
Because I think Diggs owners right now are not very happy with that offense.
You don't like a receiver going to a new offense in the middle of the season or in the start of a season. I mean, it doesn't usually start off great, but it's not, as a heavy Diggs owner myself, as a big fan. I mean, it's kind of scary going into week 4 with what we've seen there, and we saw it last year. Thielen kind of starting off really hot, and then Diggs came in, but there was an injury situation then, whereas now it's a little different. But yeah, you know what? It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, look, these days, these players, they ask for trades, and they seem to get it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it's true, because, like you said,
Where's he go? Where's he go, guys?
It can't get much worse than what it is right now.
Pittsburgh?
No, I hope not.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head where he would fit at right now. Nothing's coming to me at the moment. All right, let's go ahead and move on to waivers, Ryan. Give us a couple of your waivers. Of course, you put out the waiver wire article this morning on GoingFor2.com. You do this every week. You got a bunch of guys listed there, but what are some of the top guys this week that we're looking at adding?
I mean, we got to start with Danny Dimes for super flex leagues and deeper quarterback leagues. He looked fantastic. Yes, they played against a terrible Tampa Bay team, but he gives you a nice floor with a surprising athleticism, and he learned to go to his weapons, man. He went to Ingram early and often. Same with going to Sterling Shepard. I like what he's doing there, and I think he's a guy who's a fairly decent schedule going out, who you can feel pretty comfortable playing. Some of the shallow leagues. Valdez Scantling still out there and available on over 25% of the league. Same with John Brown and DK Metcalf, which is all insane to me. DJ Shark's still out there everywhere, and he's now had 3 games in a row where he scored a touchdown. He's averaging 15 yards a catch. He has a ton of upside. He's a guy I can say I was completely wrong on coming out, and he looks fantastic. And Gardner Minshew really trusts him. Cole Hardman is looking great. Jacoby Brissett's available everywhere, and he's another guy who gives you floor rushing, and he's performing much, much better than expected as a passer. We mentioned Wayne Gallman a little bit. Darrell Williams in Kansas City is a guy who's getting some volume. I think we're going to talk about him a little bit later. And a super deep one who I love is Preston Williams. I hate the offense, but he's getting targeted heavy in Miami. He had 10 targets last week, and he's the go-to guy. I think Josh Rosen's a solid enough QB where he can get the ball out to him, especially if that's somebody he locks onto. And at tight end position, Dawson Knox really showed up last week. I mean, he became a fan favorite with that truck stick he laid out. And he had awesome. 67 yards in his first touchdown in his career. Not only his first in the NFL, he didn't have any in college either. So he has that Delace hat on. And had one and Will Dissly's still out there, and he's been getting fed a ton in Seattle. So there's some good options this week. Nothing super high ceiling, other than maybe the Kansas City receivers, but there's a lot of guys who you can play in a pinch.
Let me ask you then. Let's say that some of the top receivers are out there. Let's say who'd you mention? McCole Hardman. You said Chark is out there. Are you dropping AJ Green for any of those guys if they're out there on the waiver wire?
If it's somebody like Valdez-Scantling or McCole Hardman, I'd probably think about it. I'm still a little bit slow on Shark, even though I probably shouldn't be because he has shown up to be their top receiver. But
Good point.
I don't want to repeat what I called him on the show before.
Probably depends on who else you hit on, right? Like, let's say you hit on a McLaurin or someone like that. Right. You can probably afford to keep AJ Green on your bench, whereas, if you're not so lucky like myself and a keeper and you kept AB, you're like trying to get Dorsett or some like Hardman to start for you,
That's true. Yeah, good point.
It's so team dependent. If I'd rather drop a guy with a low ceiling than somebody like an AJ Green who can come back and come playoffs and help me win it.
Right.
It's a deal, right?
Yep. Yeah. Good point. And just on that Will Dissly call too, another thing you want to look at. He's a good streamer this week because he's playing the Cardinals. Cardinals in Week 1 got lit up by Hawkinson. Week 2 got lit up by Mark Andrews. Week 3 got lit up by Greg Olsen. They can't cover the tight end. So if you want to stream tight end, he's the one you want to look at right now.
And they traded Vinette tonight.
That's right. They traded Vinette, so he's the only one there right now.
By Seattle.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got a lot to get to. Let's go ahead and just jump into the game previews now.
News and notes from around the league.
Sorry, I hit the wrong drop, but we're just going to roll with it. All right, kicking off the week, of course, we got the Eagles at the Packers. Eagles at 1-2. Packers are at 3-0. Ryan, you got the Eagles side of things. What are we looking at with the Eagles? I know Alshon Jeffrey and Djax are the ones everybody's looking at. I think I saw Alshon Jeffries might play, but Jackson's going to be out. What you got for this game? Oh, you're on mute, Ryan.
Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous about Alshon coming back, not being fully healthy. So I'm not fully confident there. I think we're going to see another steady dose of Aguilar, even though he had those 2 drops, but he was still making plays. He had the 2 touchdowns. That 1 catch was ridiculous. So I have a little faith there. I think we're going to see very steady dose of Ertz in this matchup. And I want to see some more action out of Miles Sanders. He looked great, minus getting his head almost ripped off. And he got 15 touches. He's starting to get more and more faith in him. And,
your dog is very opinionated on his game right now.
He's excited about Sanders, man.
Yeah, he's very excited. He's a Pennsylvania guy, that's why. But I want to see a little more dosage of him. There's no one I really trust on that offense outside of Earth at the moment, just because it's so volatile.
Yep.
And Aguilar in PPR leagues because we know he's going to get volume, but nothing that I'm really excited for upside wise.
Yep, agreed, 100%. All right, let's go over to the Packers side of things at 3-0. Devontae Adams has been kind of struggling a little bit, not getting a lot of targets. Jay-Z, what you got for the Packers?
Yeah, I mean, they're going up against Philly, who's given up the 8th most points to quarterbacks in the first 3 weeks, 4th most points to receivers. I think Rodgers and Adams actually, get back on the same page this game. Let's remember, guys, new coaching, new offense. There's always an adjustment, especially between quarterback and receiver. These guys went up against some pretty good defenses recently, against Harris this past weekend with the Broncos. So I think they get back on the same page. So Adams is a guy that in Dynasty I might be going out there, and even in redraft I'd go out there and try to buy right now after a couple slow games. Running the ball, Aaron Jones is a guy I haven't really been on just in general. And it's mostly because of volume. He's got touchdowns right now, so his point totals look really nice. So I might be shopping him around, but looking at volume right now, not ideal. And Philly's been stingy against the running back, giving up an average of 12.5 fantasy points per game so far. So I might be tempering my expectations with the Green Bay running back.
All right, good stuff there. All right, let's pick this game. Ryan, if you're still not on mute, who you got, Eagles or Packers in this game?
I feel like the Packers, they are playing extremely well on defense. And there's nothing like a terrible Eagles offense or terrible Eagles defense to help get Aaron Rodgers and those guys started.
Yep.
So I'm going to go Packers at home.
All right. What about you, JD? Who you got for this game?
Yeah, I go Packers, man. They've played Chicago, Minnesota, and Denver. I think people, need to look at that. And yeah, they're at home, man. They're 3-0. They're going to be 4-0.
Agreed. I'm going to sweep it. Go with the Packers as well. Next game on the docket, we got the Titans at 1-2 at the 1-2 Falcons. Ryan, you got the Titans side of things. There's not a whole lot of fancy options here in the Titans. Anybody you're interested at all in this Titan offense?
Not a ton. I mean, Delaney Walker's been playing great and in a brutal tight end position. I think he's a guy who you kind of lay your hat on. I'm honestly nervous about Derrick Henry in this matchup. When they were down last week, we saw more Dion Lewis on the field than Henry, who got bailed out by a touchdown. And yes, Atlanta has been playing below expectations, but they still have a ton of firepower. Team can come out with a big lead. So I'm not super comfortable about Derrick Henry. I mean, if you're on his team, you spent the draft cap when you have to start him pretty much. But he's got to temper expectations for him. Probably wouldn't touch in DFS.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mentioned it last week how the Falcons are just a bad road team, and they're going to go home this week. So I think the Falcons are a little bit better at home overall. Their offense is going to be better. That Titans offense is going to keep up with it. Speaking of the Falcons, JD, you got the Falcons at home. What you looking for in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's giving up the 10th fewest fantasy points to opposing QBs. Ryan at home, like you said, man, you got to add some points on that. So I'm confident starting him. He's even in what a not so great game this year. He's put up some good production. I've got him on a few rosters. A guy like Ridley, who just is coming off of 1 target and 1 reception, to me, he's a buy right now if you can get your hands on him. Just the way that game was going, for whatever reason, he didn't get targeted, but I think that gets adjusted this week, especially at home. A guy who's a must start coming off of 2 touchdowns is our boy Hooper. Tennessee's giving up the 6th most fantasy points at tight ends, and we saw Hooper with two touchdowns last week. Yep. This guy just keeps getting better every year, and he keeps going kind of not under the radar, but I think he's a little underappreciated, especially with what we're seeing at the tight end position so far. So running game, I'm not a big Devontae Freeman guy. Anyone who listens knows I've been off of him all off season. He's just not someone I want to go near, and he's averaging 8.7 fantasy points per game so far. So I might go to the Barkley owner right now and see if he wants some Devontae Freeman.
Nice. What about the Titans defense versus that Falcons offensive line? You worried about that at all with all the injuries they got?
Yeah, I mean, look, this Titans defense they're consistently good. I mean, in Jacksonville last week, yeah, you saw the mustache put up some nice offense, but again, I think Atlanta at home, aerial game will probably be the more prominent aspect that we're going to see from this offense, just because I think they want to get Ryan and even a guy like I mentioned earlier with Ridley back on track, I guess you could say, and at home with this offense, I think that's the way that they're going to be successful.
Agreed, 100%. All right, pick this game. Who you got, Titans or Falcons, JD?
I'm going to go Atlanta. We had high hopes for this offense and this team altogether going into this year. It's been a little slow to start, but I think they make things right at home. And Tennessee on the road maybe struggles after last week in Jacksonville.
All right. Ryan, who you got for this game?
I'm sticking with Atlanta, too. It's only a matter of time before they come back back what we expect out of that team.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm going to sweep that one as well. I'm also going with the Falcons. All right, on to the
that
next.
Comeback's going to be rough, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I got to start picking opposite of you. Yeah, I forgot to mention that at the Open. So our weekly pick'em games that we do, me and Ryan got a bet going on that whoever wins his pick'em game, the other person gets to pick their avatar on Twitter for a month. And I forgot to put my picks in last week, so I went from being up 1 game to being down 8 games. So I got a lot to do to come back. So I gotta make sure I get some games opposite of Ryan. But I think these first 2 games though are pretty much give me, so I can't go against those 2 picks. Moving on to the next.
That's not considering the spread, right? That's just pick.
Just straight picks.
Just straight up.
Just straight picks.
Yep.
Exactly.
I might have my face with like the Biggie Smalls crown on it for him, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I got a comeback to make. It's still early though. Hopefully, there's a week that you forget to put your picks in, then I can catch up. All right, the next game we got on the docket is the disappointing Browns so far at 1-2, and your Ravens coming off that big loss in Kansas City at 2-1. Ryan, we'll go to you first for your Ravens. Talk about them a little bit.
I think last week the biggest issue was they kind of abandoned the run early after they blew that 2-point conversion, but they showed when they're actually committed to it what that offense could do. Mark Ingram was an absolute monster, but I think the biggest thing we're going to see is a big bounce back game from Mark Andrews. Cleveland's not great up the middle of the field, a little bit weak at safety, and their linebackers are beat up with Kirkley just going out. So I think they'll attack that heavy. So you might see a nice dosage of Mark Andrews, and I think they're targeting Hollywood Brown a ton, man. He's the focal point of that. He's the other focal point of that offense. I think they're both set for pretty good comebacks this game. And both corners for Cleveland missed last week. And there's been no news about them coming back or being healthy yet, which could be big trouble for them.
Yep, agreed. Are you worried about Baker?
Not a huge amount, because Cleveland's offensive line has just been giving up leads the league in QB pressures or with QB hits at 29 on the season.
Yeah.
So they're getting after the QB, and with Cleveland not blocking, that could be issues with Baker. And I don't really trust their offensive play calling.
Yeah, when I watched him, even like the first game of the season, I watched him. It seems like he's got one read, and then if that read is not there, he rolls out and looks for his his sort of outlet. It's just there's no progression for him at all. It's like one read, it's not there. Now what I do? I panic. I run around, get sacked, or I throw a bad pass. So I'm a little worried about the play calling as well. Let's go over to the Brown side of things, JD. What you looking for with the Browns?
Jeff, just like I did in school, I did not listen well, and I did the Ravens. But off the cuff here, I'm going to go looking at this Cleveland offense. Like you said, they've been struggling. Anyone who listens knows I've been saying this Cleveland offense, if you're buying any pieces, don't buy it in the offseason. Buy it at this time. Week 4, week 5. This offense is going to struggle a bit to adjust. They've got a new offense. Baker's never felt this pressure. Last year, there's no pressure, man. He was just a rookie coming into an offense that had not won a game since 1950, whatever. And he had zero pressure on his shoulders. They brought him some weapons. OBJ's there. Landry's still there. They've got one of the top running backs in Chubb, but that offensive line is killing him right now. So between the adjustment to a new offense, rookie quarterback coming back to this season with way more pressure, and even just the fact that him and OBJ, I mean, how often have they been playing together on the field? That OBJ was nowhere to be seen in the preseason or in camp, and these guys are still building rapport. You look at the targets last week, 9 and 9 to the receivers with OBJ and Landry. So and if you look at Baltimore's defense, they're giving up the 10th most points to the receivers. So these divisional games are funky. Sometimes we think it's going to be low scoring, ends up being a battle back and forth. So I don't know that this offense gets on track in Baltimore, but I could see an improvement with, I think Landry was 3 for 9 last week. So maybe he's catching more of those 9 targets, and OBJ's maybe producing more with it. We saw OBJ open a few times last week. So, maybe Baker hopefully gets a bit more time to look for his boy downfield. But I think we just have to be patient with these Cleveland with this Cleveland offense. They're not going through easy defenses, and it's not going to be any easier in Baltimore. But just take advantage, man. If you're in Dynasty and you really wanted those Cleveland pieces, now it's time to go out and buy them at a discount.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the telling. Go ahead, Ryan. What are you going to say?
I was going to say the one thing you said about the Baltimore's defense giving up a ton of passing yards, a whole lot of that's been game script dependent. I got a little thing with one of the Ravens beat writers today when he was saying that. If you look at the teams they played, they're ranked 1st, 8th, and 10th in pass attempts. And 2 of those games were big leads for Baltimore where those teams had to pass, and the other was Kansas City. So I think that kind of skews it a little bit too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was I was bringing up the same point as well. I think also going back to your OBJ and Baker not being on the same page, I think the telling sort of drive of that is that 1st and goal in the 4th quarter that they had 4 straight plays to try to score a touchdown and tie that game up, and not one pass went OBJ's way. So that's kind of telling right there. You got this guy that you paid a lot of money to, and you traded for him, you got him, and you don't even go to him in the biggest moment of the game. It was kind of telling stat there for me. So I'm a little worried about the offense, but I agree. Go out and buy them if you possibly can. I do have one more quick thing we got to do here.
Cut them or keep them.
So you mentioned Jarvis Landry, JD. Are you cutting or keeping Jarvis Landry right now if you're in a redraft league? He hasn't looked very good this first couple of games.
No, I'm not cutting. Like I said, 9 targets last week, same as OBJ. Only 3 receptions. I think he had like 60-some yards. 23 targets in 3 games for my wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type guy in a dyno. I'm happy with that. Even deep targets, man. He's wide receiver 10 right now overall in the league with 6. So he's getting targeted all over the field. I do think it's a matter of rapport. Baker getting comfortable in this offense, and maybe this offensive line hopefully improving. But I'm definitely not going to just drop a guy that could be a starter for me later on in the season.
All right, good stuff. Go ahead and pick this game, JD. Who you got?
Oh, I got to go with the Ravens at home.
All right. Ryan, I'm assuming you're going Ravens as well? Oh, I think Ryan, we lost Ryan. We froze. Oh, there we go. All right, we got you back.
Am I still there?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Baltimore on this.
All right, good stuff. I got Baltimore as well, so sweep it. And all right, coming up on the next game here, we got the 3-0 Patriots at the 3-0 Buffalo Bills. Battle of undefeateds here. Of course, they both took different paths to get to undefeated, but they are both 3-0. Ryan, you got the Patriots side of things. What you looking for in this game?
I'm looking to see what they're doing in the running game. I mean, it's so inconsistent. We're seeing more Rex Burkhead than Sony Michel. We're seeing a little bit of everything. We have James White coming back. He missed last week because of the birth of his baby, so congratulations to him. But, it's a mess there, the run game. And I want to see who's going to step up in the passing game. I don't have faith in Josh Gordon this week. He's going to get Trey White on him, who's consistently lights out. And the Bills have a lot better defense than teams give them credit for. I think it's going to be an ugly game all around for the fantasy and offense for both teams. I'm not real comfortable starting basically anybody.
Real quick, while we're on the Patriots, Ryan, we got a question over on YouTube from and I'm not going to even know how to pronounce this name. It's Dax Kumar. He wants to know if he should trade Edelman to receive Leonard Fournette. Would you make that trade?
Yeah, I would. I think Fournette has upside on a game basis. I don't think that he's produced the way we want to see him, but he's getting a ton of volume and he's getting fed in the passing game, which we've never seen out of him. And if they start putting that together even a little bit, it could mean big things.
All right, good stuff. There's your answer there. Trade him away. Get your Fournette shares. All right, JD, let's go over to you on the other side of things with the Bills at 3-0. What you looking for in this game from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, like Ryan said, man, this ain't pretty. Bills at home usually not pretty games for the team coming in. Like Ryan mentioned, New England itself as a defense, though, allowing the least fantasy points to quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs, and they're top 3 against tight ends. So I don't know if I've got Bills on my roster, unless I'm super desperate, I don't know why you'd be with San Fran, and I think it's the Jets that are on bye this week.
Yep.
You should be able to sit these guys comfortably and put a better option in against this Patriot. They haven't even allowed a touchdown yet, I believe, this Patriot defense. So I don't know that Allen and John Brown are going to be the first to break the seal. I mean, maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I agree. Go ahead and pick this game. You going Patriots? JD?
Yeah, I've learned as a Colts fan to just not bet against the Patriots, and this is not a time that I'm going to do that.
All right. Ryan, who are you going with? Patriots as well?
Jeff, I'm going to open the door for you. I think Bills Mafia is going to come out, be in full force. It's going to get nuts there. I think they're going to play ugly, beat-em-up football, and shock the world.
Ryan, see, look at that. Me and you have been on this show too long because I have the Bills as well. I was taking the Bills in the upset. Now I got to go change my pick. I thought for sure that would be the one you would go Patriots, and I'd take the Bills. But I'm going to stick with it. I think the Bills can actually sneak this one out. They make this game super ugly. They get to Brady. That's the way you beat Patriots is you get to Brady somehow. You hit him any way you can. I think they can get to him. And I think they make this game ugly, like you said. They make it ugly, and the Patriots can't win an ugly game right now. So I take the Bills in the upset. All right, so far not good for me on my pick. I think we picked the exact same team so far, Ryan. We got to get some differences here. I'm never going to come back. All right, let's go to the next game. We got the Chiefs at the Lions. Chiefs, of course, are 3-0. The Lions are also undefeated. They are 2-0-1 with the tie. Ryan, we'll go to the Chiefs side of things first. What you looking for in this game?
I want to see if Darrell Williams continues to do what he did. He looked great against Baltimore, who has a pretty good run defense, and he gashed them. A lot of that's because the pass game is just so dynamic; it opens everything up for them. I think they should be a team that goes out to a big lead. They should go out to a big lead, and you might see a steady dose of the big back down the way. And then these wide receivers, they're all producing in fantasy, and they're all seeing a ton of targets to throw in so much. I mean, last week we had 5 for Hardman, and then 8 walk-ins, and I couldn't find, and another 5 for let's blank on his name. 4 for DeMarcus Robinson.
Right.
Spreading the ball, he can break a big play at any time. You have to play him based on their upside, and obviously, you don't need to talk about Mahomes and Kelsey because they're just they're monsters.
They are. They definitely are.
They open up everything for everybody.
All right, let me hit the drop here.
Breakout or fake out?
I know you had Darrell Williams in your waiver wire article. Is there any chance at all if Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy are healthy that he still gets a decent workload, or you think he goes right back to being third string?
I think it's based off of what he does here coming up. If he keeps it up, it's going to be hard to do him. Shady looked good, but he still lacks the juice that we're used to seeing. And I wasn't a huge Damian Williams believer to start with, but it all depends what they do. But Andy Reid said a lot of good things about Darrell Williams, and I think he's a guy who keep pounding the ball and doing well, breaking big plays like he did. I think he fits. I like the fit in that offense, that dude who kind of slams it home to counteract all that speed on the outside. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a nice dose of him, but I'm still going to exercise caution. But he's still definitely worth the pickup.
All right. Well, while on that note, we got a question over on Facebook from AJ. He wants to know for your fab budget, are you actually, he's got I guess the waiver wire priority, Darrell Williams or Wayne Gallman to burn your wire one move for this week? Who you want?
Ugh, gross. I'm probably gonna lean Gallman just for the fact that we're he's going to be in there for 8 weeks and there's no other options there. If I want pure upside and I can afford it, I'm going to take Darrell Williams. But if I need someone safe who I have to start because I've lost Barkley or I've lost somebody, I'm going to go Gallman. All
right, good stuff there. There is one guy I want to mention, and I'm actually adding him in my Dynasty League. Hopefully no one that is on my Dynasty League right now is watching this. If you're in a really deep league and you don't think you can get Wayne Gallman or you just have no interest in Wayne Gallman, go and add Jonathan Hillman. He's on their practice squad right now. I expect them to activate him. He had a really good preseason. He actually probably would have made the team if not the fact that he didn't play special teams. But now that Barkley has been cut, look at John Williams. If you got an extra spot on your bench right now where you can stash him, I would do that. I think he's a big back. He can be their goal line guy. In a deep league, he's definitely worth adding. So if he's there to pick up, go ahead and grab him. All right, let's go over to the Lions side of things, JD. They're kind of surprising here at being undefeated at 2-0-1. They got the Chiefs coming to town, though. I know it's going to be a tough matchup, but that offense should be able to move the ball in this Chiefs defense. What do you think?
Yeah, just before we go, I just want to throw in Mr. Darwin Thompson. Let's not forget about him. So maybe you go grab Gallman, and instead of going for Darrell Williams, you grab yourself a bit of Darwin, who's kind of out of sight, out of mind right now. These kind of cloudy running back situations, I preach often to go for the cheaper option. I don't know that I'm going to go spend money on Darrell Williams right now, because if I own him on my rosters, it's because I picked him up for cheap off waivers, a few weeks ago or in the off season. Whereas I'd probably be selling a guy like Darrell and stash a guy like Darwin right now. That's super cheap, kind of like the guy you mentioned in New York. You know what I mean? Out of mind, out of sight,
yep.
And a cheaper option. But yeah, I mean, this Lions offense for me was underrated going into the season, and they're 2-0-1 right now. Yeah, a little tougher against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are not, anything that special defensively. So I think that Kenny G bounces back this week. I think he's a buy right now if you can go to that short-sighted owner in your Dino leagues. Marvin Jones, for me, as much as I love him, I always say he'll outproduce his value. Well, he's outproduced his value right now, and I think his value, again, if you can find that short-sighted owner or the guy that just kind of looks at the total points when he's looking at the players, you're not going to have a better week than this, right, from Marvin Jones. So now's a really good time to sell Jones. But I'm playing any of these offensive weapons. Kerryon Johnson is starting to look more like a true workhorse. And, even the rookie tight end, surprisingly enough, TJ Hawk, a fan favorite, I guess, in fantasy land. He's definitely, for a rookie tight end, he's, in my opinion, outproducing what you probably expected.
Agreed.
So far, just 3 weeks in.
Yep, agreed. I think he's had a couple rough weeks the past 2 weeks, but I think that week one shows what he's capable of, and I think that if we can get that against this Chiefs defense, we definitely take that for sure. All right, we got 2 more games before the break here. We got the Panther. Oh, sorry, we got to pick that game, don't we? JD, we'll go to you first. Chiefs, Lions. Who you taking? You taking the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's hard to bet against the Chiefs' firepower, man. So I got to go with the Chiefs on this one.
All right, Ryan, who you got in that game?
Yeah, nothing crazy. It's the Chiefs. They look like a well-oiled machine, and I'm not betting against them.
Agreed. I got the Chiefs as well. So once again, I'm not going to be able to gain any ground in that game as well. All right, now the next game we got on the slate, the Panthers at 1-2 with their new quarterback Kyle Allen at the Texans, who are 2-1. Ryan, you got the Panthers and Kyle Allen. What you looking for in this offense this week?
Keep with that steady dose of Greg Olsen, man. Kyle Allen felt very comfortable going to him often, and it's fantastic for the way tight end position is this year and how rough it's been. He had 7 targets last week. He tied for the team league with Curtis Samuel. I want to see DJ Moore get more action from Kyle Allen. He only got targeted twice. That's unacceptable for a guy who had 10 and 14 the weeks before. So I want to see more out of him and Kyle Allen give probably their best playmaker the ball. I know it's fun to say Curtis Samuel's is the guy there, but DJ Moore is just electric, and he needs to get him the ball. But it's all go for Greg Olsen right now. If you have him on your roster, you should be very happy for the outlook upcoming.
Yep, agreed 100%.
And Chris McCaffrey's just unbelievable. So
agreed.
He's one of the guys. He's gonna be keeping you in almost every game.
Yep. All right, JD, let's go over to the Texans side of thing. They've been a little bit up and down this year, the Texans offense. He had that bad week 2 weeks ago, and then last week he kind of blew up. Deshaun Watson did. D-Hop's had a couple good games, a couple bad games. What you looking for in this offense this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit disappointed. I've got Watson in my Scott Fishbowl, my 3-0 Scott Fishbowl team. I just want to throw in there. It's a first for me, so I'll brag a bit. We had high expectations. For me, Watson was a guy that could push Mahomes for that number one QB position, I guess, coming out of this season. It's been a little rough. The offensive line's been rough. Duke Johnson hasn't necessarily stepped up. The running game is, I hear C.J. Anderson is back in Houston for a tryout right now. So I'm probably staying away from everyone on this roster except for Watson and Hopkins. Fuller, if you're desperate, kind of that flex spot. I'd rather not depend on him right now. But yeah, it's a little tough in Houston. That offensive line is just killer. But look, they're 2-1, right? And the Panthers come in 1-2. It's going to be a closer game than I think. I was trying to look at the spread while we were talking. I don't know if you guys have that. Oh, so Houston's favored by 4. So yeah, I mean, I think Houston at home. Hopefully Watson can maybe give us what we've been expecting, I guess we could say.
Yep. Speaking of Will Fuller.
Cut them or keep them.
What are you doing with Will Fuller? 3 games in, he hasn't done a whole lot of anything. Are you going to hold on to him here if you have any other options?
Yeah, like I said, I actually paired him up, hashtag always be stacking, with Watson in the fishbowl, hoping they would be connecting. We know his touchdown rate was way above what could carry into this season, but we were kind of hoping that he can solidify, I guess, that number 2 target for Watson. So far, he's got what? He's got 3 targets in the first game and then 7 and 7. He hasn't gone over. He's got 69 yards, 40. Yeah, like you said, he hasn't been great. It's not going to be much easier against this Panthers defense. But again, you kind of put him in, I think, in your flex or your wide receiver through, and you hope he goes off for maybe a long touchdown. Otherwise, it's you have to temper expectations with the Houston offense. I think just even moving forward, unless they have a really good matchup, and yep. I don't know that this is one of them.
Yep, agreed 100%. I actually have in DFS I've stacked the 3 of them actually: Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and Will Fuller. The last 2 weeks, expected them to have that breakout game where both of them just go off, and I've been disappointed both times. So I don't know if I can go to it for a 3rd week in a row, but I'll take a look at them and see if Will Fuller's getting those targets. He just got to break 1. That's all you need from Will Fuller. Just get 1, and you'll be happy with that. All right, let's pick this game. Ryan, we'll go to you first. Who can take it in this game?
Over the last 2 weeks.
What was that?
I said he has 1 less target than D-Hop over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, yep.
But I'm taking Houston. I think they still have more talent, and I believe a lot more in Deshaun Watson than Kyle Allen.
Agreed. JD, what you going with over here?
Yeah, it's a tougher one than I thought, but I do think there's something to be said with, there's always kind of that letdown. I don't know, with that quarterback coming in his second start. So I think Houston pulls this off, and hopefully we see this offense revive a bit for fantasy land's sake.
Yeah, once again, I'm with Ryan. I'm not going to gain any ground this way, but I got to pick the games I think you're going to win. I don't want to get too crazy just yet, so I'm also going with the Texans in this game. All right, one more game before the break. We got the Raiders at 1-2 at the Colts, who are 2-1. Ryan, we'll go to you first. The Raiders, what you looking for in this game?
Josh Jacobs, man, he's been getting fed, and Gruden went out and said today that, maybe it was today or yesterday, that he wanted to get him more involved in the passing game, which is music to my ears. I really wish I had some shares of him, honestly, because he's the best player in their offense. And him and Tyrell Williams and Darren Waller are literally the entire show for them. They don't have much else. But you can feel extremely comfortable starting Jacobs, starting Waller, and I think Tyrell Williams is a solid flex play pretty much through and through. And the Colts right now, just losing Malik Hooker for the season. That hurts that defense, and I think they have an opportunity to exploit it a little bit up the middle, which should be money for Waller.
Yep, agreed. I think it's basically those 3 guys you mentioned that you start on this offense, and the rest of them, I think that, you're not starting Derek Carr, and I don't know who the number 2 receiver is right now, honestly, so I don't think you're starting him either. All right, JD, we'll go over to you with the Colts. And, of course, the big news, we got a little bit of injury news with the Colts there. What you looking for with this Colts offense?
Yeah, it's too bad on the defense side of the ball. Offensively, they've looked good, and the opposite of what we're talking about in Texas is this offensive line, man. They've been solid. They've given Brissett a chance to play well, and he's a buy for me right now. He's kind of a streamer that you can get for super cheap, or a guy you can plug in, and he's going to produce for you really well. He offers a nice floor. And he's got nice weapons. I mean, against Oakland, I think we're going to see another Marlon Mack type game here. I would expect this offense gets ahead early and tries to control the clock with Mack. He was on the injured, I think, to the last second last week. And thankfully enough, in Quarter Milli Billy's, my co-owner Dan said, "Let's put Mack in," and I was like, "Great call, buddy." So yeah, I think you play Mack, you play Brissett. I don't know what TY's situation is right now. I don't know if you guys have a better update than I, but last I heard it was iffy. So keep an eye on that. If he's not there, maybe a guy like Campbell can pop, a guy like Kane. The thing is, after TY, you're pretty much, it's a lottery ticket, man. It's kind of like some of those situations we talked about in San Fran or Arizona where we don't really know who's going to step up. I think last week it was Kane that got a touchdown. You've got Pascal that's still there. And then the tight ends. Oakland's not the best against the tight ends, so if you need, you're kind of desperate at the position. Maybe Kittle is on the bench this week. Doyle is a guy that'll offer you a nice floor with 4 or 5 catches and 40 and 50 yards, to kind of plug in during the bye week.
Good stuff. All right, who you got for this game?
I got to go with my Colts.
All right, going with the Colts. Ryan, who you got?
Second to that, I'm going Colts as well.
Sweep it, going Colts as well. All right, guys, quick commercial break here. When we come back, we'll do the rest of the games here. Hold tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. GoingFor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, and we are back. I'm here with JD of the GOAT District and, of course, Ryan, my co-host, and we are breaking down Week 4. We are up to the Chargers and the Dolphins. The Chargers at 1-2. The Dolphins, of course, at 0-3. Ryan, you got the Chargers this week. What you looking for from the Chargers offense last week after Keenan Allen's humongous game this past week?
I'm looking to see a lot more out of Keenan. Honestly, I think that whole offense is going to get off. Keenan Allen's going to keep doing what he's doing. You might see a little bit less production because chances are they might just blow them out where they're not going to have to pass as much. I think you'll see big games out of other normal stars. I think it's going to be a Justin Jackson game, too. Coming in later in the game, polishing off the Dolphins. He might get a ton of volume late just to kind of work him in there a little bit, which we haven't seen much of. So he could be a deeper sleeper, but I think for all the starters, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Rivers, it's wheels up. Eckler, I think they just, whoever's playing the Dolphins, you start.
Exactly. What about the defense? You playing the defense versus the Miami Dolphins as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, come on. What are the Dolphins going to do?
Yep. Yeah, I saw a stat.
Literally, if they're out there, you're starting them.
I saw a stat on Twitter, and someone had it was some kind of efficiency rating. I don't know the exact science on it, but it was a chart that had everybody pinpointed the receivers, and there was a whole cluster of guys right in the middle of the field, and then all the way up at the very top right-hand corner was Keenan Allen. He was so far above everybody else in efficiency, it was ridiculous right now what he's getting. So Keenan Allen, of course, got the great matchup this week. You got to plug and play with him. I think he's showing that he's definitely an elite receiver in this league. So going to the Dolphins side, JD, I apologize. Is there anybody here you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's not waste time, man. The spread is 17, I think, for the Chargers. I'm not playing Dolphins, man. Like, if I'm super desperate, I'm still not playing Dolphins. So.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, you're giving up, right? It's kind of like you represent what the team represents right now. You're just like, we want the 101 in 2020.
Yep, exactly. So I'm assuming you're going Chargers. Ryan, you're going Chargers. I'm also going Chargers. So we just move on to the next game. The next game is the Redskins at 0-3 at the Giants, who are surprisingly 1-2 after that great comeback victory last week. Ryan, we'll go to you for the Redskins. Is there anybody in this offense you're interested in?
Hey, Jeff, can you take the Redskins real quick? I have to jump out. I'm being harassed.
Okay, all right. No problem. I can take the Redskins. All right, so I think for the Redskins side of things, the only players you're really probably starting is probably Terry McLovin, as we call him on this show. I know everybody wants to call him F1. That seems to be the nickname going around on Twitter, but I gave him the Terry McLovin name, and I'm going to stick with it. So I think he's probably the only one you want to start. Adrian Peterson didn't do much this past week. Granted, it was against a tough matchup, and the Giants aren't quite as good. So if you're desperate, Adrian Peterson. Chris Thompson, game script doesn't really favor him so much, but I think he's still involved. So if you got Chris Thompson in a PPR league, he's definitely startable as well. The Redskins defense hasn't been terrible, so I think if you're really desperate and you're streaming, you can look at that streaming defense as well. But you could be really desperate, I think, to start the Redskins defense. Other than that, you're not starting Case Keenum. You might start Paul Richardson if you're really desperate. He had 2 touchdowns in the past 2 games, or one in each game. So I guess you could potentially start him. My thing is just when are they going to put Haskins in? I think they're going to probably wait to that Miami game to put Haskins to give them sort of a cupcake matchup against an intramural team, not even a real football team. Maybe they'll start him there and get him going because, I mean, at 0-3 and the way they've looked so far this season, they're not worth, putting Case Keenum out there with they got that rookie behind him ready to start. So I guess McLaurin, if obviously a must start at this point, and then the rest of the guys are just situational flex guys. All right, let's go over to the Giants side of things. Of course, the Saquon Barkley less Giants. What you looking for in this game, JD?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. Gallman comes in with the opportunity, and at the running back position, we've seen it time and time again. That's probably the number one factor is opportunity, and he's definitely going to get it. There's not much behind him. The talent might not be there. He's got the size. He's 6 foot, 215. I don't know. It's one of those guys where I'm always iffy with these Gallman type guys,
right. But
he's got opportunity. Daniel Jones is kind of reviving this offense right now, so maybe Barkley, young quarterback, having to throw the ball a bit more. Golden Tate should be back soon. I think next week or the week after, so he'll be an added weapon. I think you start Shepard. Ingram right now is the number one. I believe he's the number one tight end in football, and that's not surprising. I mean, he was the talent was there. He's shown flashes, and he was going to be the number one target in this offense, no matter who the quarterback was. But I like Daniel Jones. One quarterback, it doesn't matter, but super flex. If you have this guy on your bench, you are definitely a happy man. And you talk about Haskins. How nice would it be if they rolled him out in this game? Haskins versus Daniel Jones. I'd love to see that.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, that's pretty much it with these Giants. Trying to think who else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Defensively, maybe the Giants' defense at home. If you're kind of desperate or you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, you want to say maybe you take the Giants' defense against Case Keenum that didn't look too great. This week.
Yep, agreed 100%. There is one guy that's sort of under the radar that I've actually added in my Dynasty League last week. Finally back from injury. He was a rookie, Darius Slayton. Him and Daniel Jones had a really good connection in the preseason. And also all the camp notes said that him and Jones were, connecting quite a bit. In this past game, I think he had, I believe, 3 catches for like 65 yards. He had a 46-yard reception from Daniel Jones. So he's someone that's sort of under the radar on waiver wires if you want to look at him, especially into some deep dynasty leagues. So Darius Slayton's a good name to probably add to your list as well. All right, let's pick this game. It's a tough game to pick. Who you got, JD? Giants or Redskins?
I'm going to go Giants, man. The momentum is there. Daniel Jones comes home. This guy looks like he wants to prove the world wrong, and he did it in that game, and I don't see why he can't do it against Washington.
All right. Ryan, who you got for this game?
I'm going Giants as well. Case Keenum looked just bad. Yeah, I think. Next. They have a lot more. They have a little bit more talent on the Giants. Not a lot, but just enough.
Just enough. All right, so I originally had the Giants, but since you went Giants, I'm making a change right here live. I'm going to go Redskins in this game, just for the sake of I need to make some ground up here, and I live in Washington D.C., so I'm going to take my home team, even though it's not my team. I'm going to go ahead and pick them and hope that they pull this game out somehow, some way. They've looked pretty good at times this season. That first half in Philly, they looked pretty good, and the first half last week or 2 weeks ago, they looked pretty good as well. So we'll see how it goes. Taking a risk there. Moving on to the next.
I apologize, guys, for the barking dog, by the way.
It's all right, man. We're used to it by now. We know that your dog's always part of the show.
Yeah, dude. He was feeling himself since making Juju's Instagram.
He's a star now. He's a star. All right.
And he's rolling around the house with sunglasses on.
Moving on to the next game, we got the Seahawks at 2-1 going to the Cardinals at 0-2-1, but have looked decently good on offense. Ryan, we're going to you first with the Seahawks side of things. What you looking for in this game?
The biggest question mark for the Seahawks right now is Chris Carson. Is he going to keep fumbling? We kind of touched on that earlier. And what that opens up for CJ Pro's side and hopefully eventually Rashard Penny. I like Carson, but that's something that's not acceptable. As for their passing offense, man, they look unbelievable. Russell Wilson is out there proving everybody who doubted him in this offseason wrong about him not being volume. And we're seeing Tyler Lockett proving that he can be a low-end wide receiver one with upside if he's getting that volume that we've seen the last 2 weeks. And it's been fantastic to see. DK Metcalf's starting to get a little bit more volume, getting involved in the offense. So he's a guy you can play in the flex. And Will Dissly's been great. Unless you have a top-tier tight end, you're starting them.
Yep.
I think it's kind of wheels up for that whole offense in general. And Cardinals defense is anything to worry about. And we still got another this last week before Patrick Peterson's back, so you don't have to worry about Tyler Lockett at all.
Yeah, I think I'm going to raise my hand on that hater of the Tyler Lockett's and Russell Wilson combo there. I was sort of off the bandwagon, so to speak, with their efficiency rating being so high last year. I thought it had to come down at some point. It really hasn't. They've been pretty good. Wilson had an awesome game last week. Lockett, of course, proved a lot of us wrong with his game that he had last week as well. So yeah, you're starting them obviously if you got them. So good stuff there, Ryan. Going over to the Cardinals side of things, they've. I think I saw a stat. I think it was Ryan McDowell that put it out that the top 3 receivers in the NFL right now on routes run are all Cardinals, which is crazy to think. But they've run a ton of plays. What you looking for from the Cardinals this week, JD?
Yeah, man, you said it. Volume, and volume. Volume is key in football, and it's volume with this offense. Kyler Murray's starting to run a bit more. We didn't really see it the first few games, but we saw it last game, and I think we're just going to see it more and more as he gets comfortable, which offers a nice floor. So I think Murray, obviously you start him in super flex in a 1 QB. Maybe you've had him on your bench, and maybe you've picked up a guy like Dak, and you see which guy you can trade for more value if you need to make a move. But I think you start Kyler, you start Kirk. Kirk's been pretty consistent. Receivers, I'm always looking at targets, and like you said, with this volume, this guy's got 12, and 8 targets in the first 3 games.
Wow.
That's legit, man, especially at the price he was going for a while there. When his value dropped a bit, when we started hearing about these other receivers that Arizona drafted. So I think you start those 2. It's too bad Arizona doesn't have like a significant tight end, because Seattle is across the board. They're pretty solid defensively, but against the tight end, they're a little soft, which would have been nice. But I don't know if you want to start Charles Clay unless you're playing like DFS. So I think you start the usual guys on this roster. Even Fitz is a nice flex, again, with the volume and being at home. But, it'll be nice to see these 2 quarterbacks with similar styles, I guess you could say, going head-to-head.
Yeah, I think they kind of compared those 2. That was their comp, basically, with Russell Wilson, with Kyler Murray coming out of college because of his size and everything else. And I think Kyler Murray's kind of put that a little bit to rest. He struggled a little bit last week. I think he got sacked 8 times and only threw for like 170 yards, but he did put up about 70 or 80 yards on the ground, so you kind of saved your fantasy day there. So if you got to start him, which I may have to this week, I think that he's a decent start against the Seattle secondary. All right, going to the next game we got. Oh, let's pick this game. Sorry, Seahawks and Cardinals. Who you got, Ryan?
You mentioned the biggest thing about Kyler Murray getting sacked all the time, and Seattle has a ridiculous front seven, so I'm going Seattle.
All right, and JD, who you got?
Ditto.
All right, I think I'm also going the Seahawks as well. I'm not going to get too crazy with that one. The next game we got is the 1-2 Bucks at the 3-0 Rams. Ryan, you got the Bucks. They finally kind of put that offense together last week. Mike Evans, who, if you watched my Friday DFS show, I was all over Mike Evans. I said he would have a breakout game. I didn't expect 3 touchdowns and almost 200 yards, but I thought he'd have a good game. He won me a bunch of money this past weekend. So what do you think of this offense this weekend, Ryan?
I mean, everybody said Mike Evans was a sleeper last week, which was insane because he's Mike Evans. We knew everyone in the world knew he was going to come around there. Everybody took a victory lap that they called that he was. But if Mike Evans is going and that offense is coming together, I think Chris Godwin's going to be a little more consistent with Evans breaking out and being that part of the offense. And O.J. Howard's kind of been a huge disappointment. I don't even have to say about doing him, and I think I'd maybe find someone else in the wire and kind of stash him a little bit. One guy who I forgot to mention on the waivers again was Ronald Jones.
Yep.
He's hit the carries have been inconsistent across the games. He barely got any touches week 2, but week 1 he had 14 touches. This week 3 he had 15 touches, and he racked up 93, then 121 yards. He's breaking big plays. He's bouncing off tackles. He's making guys miss in space. He has explosive ability. And if he's getting volume, man, he's the kind of guy who can break the big play at any time. I actually like how he looks in that offense, and he's a guy I'm going to be trying to grab. I may not feel comfortable starting him until they know exactly what they're doing at the running back position, but I think he's a guy that's a great stash, and this isn't too bad. I don't love him for this game, but I think he's a guy who we need to go out and get.
Yep. Okay. All right, guys. We're up against the clock here, so we're going to do a quick fire for these rest of these teams here. So Rams, JD, who you starting with the Rams here? You just start your receivers and your quarterback and Todd Gurley and roll with it, or you got somebody else you like?
Yeah, I might put up a caution sign on the running backs. The Bucks have been pretty stingy, second against the running back, allowing the second least points. So the way Gurley's been performing, and I don't know, I might not be confident starting one of these guys. If you can afford to, I'd sit him. And surprisingly enough, they're giving away the 4th most points at tight end. So Everett's, especially if Higbee's out, I don't have the latest update, but if Higbee's not playing, Everett might be a nice sleeper, especially in those DFS lineups.
All right, good stuff there. Pick this game. Who you got, JD? Who was that?
Rams.
Ryan, who you got?
Rams
for me as well. All right, sticking with the quick fire. We got the Vikings 2-1 at the Bears 2-1. Ryan, we'll go to you first with the Viking side of things. Who you got in this game?
Kind of easy peasy. The only guy I'm really confident is Dalvin Cook. He's unbelievable this year. If you picked him in the second round, chances are you're having a really good fantasy season. I don't think anything changes, even against the Bears defense. It may be more that 80 to 90 yards instead of the 120, 130 yard game, but he's still the kind of guy who can need 1 to 2 runs to just break for him to have a huge fantasy performance. Not confident in the receivers at all right now in the passing offense, and the Bears are pretty stingy there. So I'm going to temper my expectations a little, but I'm still confident, at least in Dalvin.
All right. Going to the other side of things here with the Bears. They look pretty terrible on offense so far, other than Taylor Gabriel. That's this past Monday. What you doing with the Bears offense this week, JD?
Yeah, like you said, man, it's been ugly. The only guy I've been confident coming into the season, and I'm confident starting every week, is A-Rob. He gives you like a nice wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type of production pretty much regularly. Even this week, I think he was 6 for 60 something.
Yep.
Giving you a nice 12 points there. Otherwise, Trubisky's all over the place. The guy's still a work in progress if he's ever going to progress.
Right.
But he spreads the ball even when he does well. You know what I mean? So you can't put Taylor Gabriel in there hoping he's going to get 3 touchdowns every week. So if you're going to sell anyone, Gabriel's the guy. Otherwise, the only guy I'm confident in is A-Rob. Even the Chicago defense, Minnesota's been stingy against team defenses, so temper expectation with your number 1 Chicago defense.
Yeah, agreed. I think also another guy you want to mention too is David Montgomery. I think the breakout game is coming. I don't think it's this week. I think if you can buy him low, I think he's getting the volume now. I think Mike Davis got 1 carry last week, so I think he is now the guy. It's just he's had some tough matchups. I think the breakout game is coming, just not this week. All right, let's pick this game. JD, who you got?
Yeah, I'll go Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota to upset in Chicago.
All right, Ryan, who you got?
JD, I feel like I'm on par with almost all of your picks tonight. I'm going Minnesota as well.
All right, so there's another chance for me to make up some ground here. I actually have the Chicago Bears picked, so I'm going to stick with that. Go with the Bears at home. Going to take this game. So, all right, on to the next game. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars at 1-2 versus the Broncos at 0-3. Ryan, you got the Jag side of things. What you looking for in this game?
I think this kind of game we're going to see a lot of Leonard Fournette in. Finally, Denver's offense isn't anything that's going to put up points, so Jacksonville is not going to be playing from a huge deficit. It should be a low-scoring game, so I think we'll see a ton of Fournette in it. DJ Shark's still going to be seeing that volume in their passing game. Minshew loves him, so I still trust him as a nice flex option if I'm kind of in a pinch. Other than the Jags' offense is no one I'm really starting, maybe Minshew in super flex. And I'd probably feel comfortable starting the Jags' defense against Denver as well.
All right, good stuff. Let's go over to the other side of things with the Broncos at 0-3. I think not all 0-3 teams are created equal. I think the Broncos could very easily be 2-1. I think the Raiders game was the one game they didn't do very well in. They've been in most of the other games here. So who are you looking for with the Broncos there, JD?
Yeah, actually, another shout out to Randy there. He posted in the GOAT League chat that Flacco, I think right now, is the second most attempts at the deep ball throw. So he's definitely slinging the ball more than expected. A nice surprise this year has been Sutton, who is kind of like an add-on in trades in the offseason in Dino World. But the guys I'm really happy to start this week are the running backs. Jacksonville's giving up the 6th most points to opposing running backs, and we saw Lindsey go off last week. These guys are splitting 50-50. Lindsey right now for me and Dino is a sell. But if you have either of these guys, I think you have to start them against this Jacksonville defense. And the story of the week is definitely the porn stash, right? I mean, how can it not be?
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's pick this game. Ryan, we'll go to you first this time. Jags, Broncos. Who you got?
I think despite all the turmoil, I think Jacksonville comes in and
all right, it's going to you, JD. Who you got for this game?
I'm going to go Broncos with the small. I guess it's not an upset because they're favored by 3, so I'm going to go Broncos.
All right, I think I had Jaguars originally, but because Ryan went with the Jags, I'm going to take the Broncos there to sort of gain some ground in that game. So we're going with the Broncos in that one. All right, we got 2 more games. We got the Cowboys at 3-0, going to the Saints at 2-1. Ryan, we'll go to you first on the Cowboys side of things. Is it just the triple threat there?
Yeah, and the one thing I want to bring up about that, a lot of people were getting nervous about playing the Saints with number 1 receivers for Marshawn Lattimore. Pro Football Focus posted this today on Jeff Ratcliffe's Twitter. Right now on the season, Marshawn Lattimore currently leads the league in catches allowed and yards allowed with 20 catches and 341 yards.
Wow.
So guys are producing against him. So I think we could see another huge week out of Marty Cooper, who we saw embarrass Xavier Howard last week.
Yep.
I don't think anything changes. I think he has a huge game. I think we see steady doses, even though New Orleans has been okay against the run. And Dak's been fantastic this year. I think it's those big 3 in Dallas. Anyone else, kind of just a dart throw.
Agreed. All right, let's go over to the Saints side of things. Everybody was scared of Alvin Kamara coming into last week's game, but he produced. What you looking for in this game, JD?
It's my 101, son. 8K. Doesn't matter who's back there at quarterback. No, you know what? Kamara came through last week. I'm definitely not worried about him. Jared Cook is not a guy I usually like. But if you look at the defense, they've given up the 10th most points to the tight end position. So maybe we see a guy like Brandon Cook give a little support to our boy Bridgewater. At the quarterback position, I mean, you got to start Michael Thomas. You're starting Kamara. I'm probably not wanting to start Bridgewater, even though he did pretty well last week. He just doesn't look comfortable in that offense. You start your main players, and even a guy like Smith, I'm probably not comfortable sitting unless I'm really desperate with a bye week situation or just wanting a flyer.
Right. All right, good stuff there. Let's go ahead and pick this game. Cowboys and Saints. Who you got, Ryan?
I got Cowboys. I think they're clicking on all cylinders right now. They're fantastic on offense and defense.
All right. JD, Cowboys, Saints, who you got?
Yeah, I like me some Cowboys, and just I wasn't doing the team, but the Pollard right now is a guy you want on your bench. He's a waiver wire pickup if he's out there. And we had Noah Riddell on our show, and he's a good friend of Dan. These guys are all high stakes, high volume guys, and he's been saying that Pollard is going to come in here and he's going to have a carved in role into this new offense. I think people are kind of shaking their heads, wondering why Zeke is not necessarily in full control of this offense, and I think that might be why. Is this new coordinator wants a bit of that Pollard, and I think you might want to pick him up on your bench if you have the opportunity.
All right, good call. This is one more game that I think I can gain some ground because I picked the Saints at home to take this game, and a little bit of an upset with Teddy Bridgewater there. I think he can manage the game good enough. The Saints are a good home team. I think they can beat the Dallas Cowboys in their place. Last game is going to be a pretty terrible Monday night game with the 0-3 Bengals going to the 0-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. Ryan, you got the Bengals, and your boy Joe Mixon finally had a breakout game last week. What you looking for in this game?
Hopefully we'd see more volume out of Joe Mixon, especially in that dump-off game and the passing game, because Steelers can have kind of a hard time guarding anybody in the passing game. I think the receivers for the Bengals should do well. The Steelers' cornerbacks have just been getting roasted in and out. Even Joe Hayden, who they've paid a boatload of money. I think Tyler Boyd, you see your normal consistent play. We've seen majority of the year out of him. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a big game out of John Ross as well. Got to see Auden Tate do a little bit last week. He's just a personal favorite of mine from his Florida State days. But he's a nice red zone target for them, who somebody could eventually get as part of that, especially with a beat-up tight end game. But I think I'm pretty comfortable playing most of the Bengals receivers, and I think Dalton could be a sleeper. You can play in super flex leagues, or if you're in a pinch with all the quarterbacks getting injured.
All right, good stuff. Let's go over to the Steelers side of things. With Mason Rudolph last week, he targeted, I believe, Deontay Johnson the most out of the receivers last week. What are your thoughts on this offense this week, JD?
Yeah, this one's actually a bit of a head scratcher. Vegas has Steelers favored by 5. You've got 2 winless teams. I understand they're at home. Usually that gives you like a 3-point advantage with the spread if it's a wash. So I'm a little surprised the Steelers are. I mean, Dalton's look good. This Bengals offense looked good last week. I mean, they were in Buffalo, which is always a tough feat, and a guy like Ross was shut down. But you know what? I think the Steelers this week, hopefully you see this offense come back. Maybe they try to bring a guy like Connor, a bit of a revival this week at home against a Bengals defense that obviously has not been that great. Juju, I mean, look, he's a guy I have had my Juju pom-poms, with a guy like that. But you've got a guy like Mason Rudolph coming in, a lot of question marks. He's at home now. He's got another game under his sleeve. I think maybe the Steelers offense gets, I don't want to say back on track because you've got a new quarterback, but maybe this Steelers offense takes a step forward, and maybe we see, especially these younger guys like Washington and Johnson. I mean, I know Johnson had a pretty good week last week, but hopefully this week we see a bit more out of this offense, and specifically these Steelers. It's always iffy, man, with these new quarterbacks, right? We don't know how they're going to perform, and they affect all the guys around them. So as a Juju owner, I'm always hesitant, but you have to start him. And McDonald's, I believe you guys told me, is still injured, right?
Yeah, he's in a sling.
Yeah, he's in a sling. And that's why I traded for Vanette today.
Vanette comes in and maybe he puts in that magic. But again, we don't necessarily see the tight end position light up in Pittsburgh. So I think you stick to your juju. I think you play Connor this week, as much as he's been a bit disappointed, and Mason Rudolph in Superflex, I guess.
Did you see the stat they showed? It's the first time since Tebow that QB only had 2 passes have an A-dot of over 1 yard.
Wow.
Yes, over the scrimmage line. I know. I heard that and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty ugly."
That is.
Yeah, he had 2 passes that went more than 1 yard downfield.
Wow.
Like they have the training wheels on him big time.
That is crazy. One thing I will say is that he learned from Big Ben, and we know Big Ben was a terrible road QB and a better home QB. So maybe he'll learn that from Big Ben as well and bring it home and be a much better quarterback. All right, let's pick.
And in all fairness, San Fran's pass rush is pretty legit. You know what I mean? So you always got to look at who these guys play on a weekly, and coming into that situation wasn't easy, I think.
Good point. And it was their home opener, too. They were pretty hyped up there in San Fran, so I agree 100%. All right, let's pick this game, Ryan. Who you got in this one?
I'm picking the Bengals, man. It's weird to say, I trust Andy Dalton more at quarterback, and I don't think I've ever said that in my entire life, but I think they have weapons who are clicking right now with John Ross and Boyd. They're putting up some points, and their defense is okay. And the Steelers right now are just kind of floundering.
Yep.
So I feel really bit nervous about that team. So I'm gonna take Cincinnati. All
right, JD, who you got in this game?
Yeah, I kind of like Cincinnati too, and I'm looking at this spread with Pittsburgh favored. I don't usually bet on games, but that might be something I put a little cheddar on. But I'll go with Cincinnati to go into Pittsburgh and win this one.
All right, I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one at home. I think we saw what the Niners did to the Steelers when they had that run game. They averaged like over 5 yards per carry. I think 3 different running backs that week were fantasy viable, with Jeff Wilson getting 2 touchdowns, Breida getting 121 yards, and Mostert having a 68-yard reception. So I think they bring Connor in there, and Connor and maybe even Samuels goes off, and I think that the Steelers can get this victory at home. So one more game there that I can sort of catch up with Ryan, hopefully. All right, as I said before, we were running long, so we're going to quickly jump into our forgotten player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, JD, I left you this question before the show here. Who is your forgotten player of the week?
I think I'm answering this question right. If I'm not, I apologize, but I'm going Peyton Hillis.
Nice.
This guy was on the cover of Madden, man, after his 2010 season. He came in, I think it was like week 3 or 4, put up a total of 180 yards, 77 yards with 270 rushes in 2010, and like I said, was on the cover of Madden in 2011. So Peyton Hillis actually won me a couple ships, so I got to give him a shout out on the Armchair Fantasy Show.
Nice, I like it because Peyton Hillis was the definition of one-hit wonder. You look up one-hit wonder, it's a picture of Peyton Hillis there, because I remember that next year I think he was like a first-round pick, and he was just terrible from there on out. So Peyton Hillis, great.
He's the reason I trade my Damian Williams type shares when they pop.
Yeah, good call. All right, guys, let's go ahead and quickly go around the room, get our Twitter handles, where we can follow you at, where we can find you at. JD, we'll go to you first.
At Go District, find me on Twitter, tag me on any trade polls. I'll give you my thoughts, retweet. Jeff, Ryan, always a blast, man. Love talking fantasy with you guys, and appreciate you guys having me.
Definitely, man. Definitely. We definitely need to get you on again, man. I think you're one of our best guests. One of our most popular guests, too. I think whenever we have you on the show, we have a lot of good numbers. So you got a good following over there at the GOAT District. So good stuff. All right, Ryan, where can we follow you at?
Find me on Twitter at Ryan Searfoss at Fantasy FB Connect. Find me here every Tuesday, and watch out for my waiver articles also on Tuesdays.
All right, good stuff. Of course, I'm Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. With that, that's a wrap. Peace.